think with Volume 3, well, sonically it's completely different as far as like expanding the sound that was on the previous 2 projects. It was very minimal. There's a lot more synths and a lot more orchestration and grandness. I mean, each project was grand, but Volume 3 is grand in its own way and more in the middle. I think the first 2 albums are very, you know, indie, alternative, highly influenced by that, not that many drums, very artistically driven, whereas Volume 3 is like the best of both worlds as far as like bringing in those other aspects from other, you know, more hip-hop based stuff, more drum based stuff, and then combining it with the indie, combining it with the alternative sound. Volume 3 is very focused, and I think it expands on every single aspect of everything: the rapping, the singing, the beats, the overall concept of the projects. I think it expands on all of that. 3 was the hardest one to make as far as like putting it together. 3 is like the hardest one to make as far as like putting it together, because I wasn't in the same place that I was as far as 1 and 2 financially and emotionally and all these other things, because like I had a lot more going on. I was doing art shows. I'm getting recognition for 1 and 2. I'm getting opportunities based on 1 and 2. I'm getting opportunities based on my art, whereas 1 and 2 came from not having any of that at all. So you're in a place where you're not depressed or whatever. So I wasn't depressed making 3, and I was depressed making 1. I was depressed making 2. I may have been a little frustrated making 3, but I wasn't depressed, and I had like certain circumstances were falling into place for me and things were better and going up in my life. So it's like, how do I finish this series that deals with this certain aspect of one part of my life where I'm in another part now? And I think that was the challenge, but I was able to kind of put it together and reflect in a way where I was able to do that. If not lyrically, I was able to reflect sonically. So I was able to, you know, make music that sounds like this series, whereas the raps were more modern as far as like what I'm dealing with right now, and other people and other aspects, and I would tie that all in together, you know. But the lyrical content on Volume 3 is probably the most separated of 1 and, you know, the whole entire series, besides a few songs that I hyper focused those songs on certain situations. But I think Volume 3 is showing you where things are gonna go and moving away. You know, it's like the ending of the thing. It's like, we're capping all this stuff off. We're ending 1 and 2. We're showing you that this is the end of that story. And now this is where it's starting to go. Emotionally, I think Volume 2 is the one that I'm most in link to. I don't listen to Volume 2 that much at all, because it just was so heavy. But to me, the best sounding one is Volume 3, as far as like the mixing, the mastering, the production, the rapping, the singing, all these aspects that come together and creating an album. I feel like Volume 3 perfected all of that. Whereas 1 was me learning and putting this stuff together, and I put together something I felt like was one of a kind, but it wasn't perfect per se. And 2 was me improving on that, but also expanding on other aspects of my creativity as far as the more minimal aspects of that. But Volume 3 was like, all right, this is me perfecting my craft and like showing you that I know how to do all this stuff now. I think it was always like a natural thing. Like, I never thought about, you know, it's been a long time since I thought about like other people are hearing this. Like, I wanted other people to hear it. I wish as many people as possible could hear, you know, each project and experience that, because I think they're like really inspiring. I think some of the best lyrics, hip hop lyrics ever written are on these 3 albums. Like, I do that shit. Like, I'm a writer. Like, I'm a poet and I'm a writer. I ain't gotta be the best rapper in the world. I ain't gotta be the best producer in the world, but I am very excellent at writing and telling stories, you know, lyrically, because things may seem a certain way when you listen to them, and you may think it's super surface level, but those lyrics that can be as simple as possible mean 3 different things. And that's what I always explain to people, like, there's lyrics in these albums that mean so much, and they link to so many other things in my life and other people's lives that they will never ever know. And it's probably some of the most dense, like, I mean, I think like Earl's Sweatshirt is like really dense. I'm dense like that. People wouldn't think I am based on how I rap, but as far as the craft of writing, I am very much about writing and about my craft. Man, I got a project. I got 2 projects, and I'm working on one. I ain't gonna get no names yet, cause I don't know what's gonna happen. Anything can happen. I don't know. I don't want to speak it into existence. And then, like, sometimes when you like make plans, like, God is like, yo, you think you running stuff, but I'm running stuff, so it ain't gonna happen that way. So I ain't gonna say the names of the projects, but I'll say the name of the other project. But the project I'm working on now, it's a story that was touched on in the trilogy, that was loosely touched on. There was maybe 3 songs made about that particular story that I only made 3 songs about because I wasn't really mentally ready to talk about or just there yet. So I'm gonna make an album about that experience, and it's very tight. Like, you know, it's only, that particular experience is only maybe 5 months worth of information. So I'm gonna break down those 5 months of information and tell that story, whereas I have lyrical references that reference this time period and that time period in the trilogy. But I'm gonna, you know, like really focus in on that and try to break down certain stuff, like this day this happened, this happened, this happened, and just kind of put that together, because I think that is an experience that has shaped me now that I really haven't discussed in full.